Morning, everybody. Let's get this sorted. Just go live on both platforms. Good morning. How are we all? Good morning. Green side up. Um, I'm just going live on Instagram, and then I'll be with you all. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what you're doing today. Let me know how we all are. Let me know where you're watching from. Just while we will go live on Instagram, and we are live on. So we've got Greenside up from Cumbria. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday morning live. At the farm already this morning. Positioning on the phones are a bit shit, but language. That's better. Right, how are we all doing? For those that are just joining me on Instagram and those on YouTube, I'm taking my second bash at doing a live across two platforms simultaneously, which for those of you that don't understand that means at the same time. I'm sure you all understand what simultaneously means. Anyway, I'm Alex. For those that are new, I am a vegetable grower here in the UK. I've got a market garden that's just out there. We're on the shed that's there now. I'm going to do a little bit of a live this morning. I'm going to do a Q&A this morning for anyone that's here. Greenside up, Techie Nightmare. Yeah, I've got Techie Nightmare again, as always, because I don't really understand how these things work. We've got someone from Oxfordshire watching. So while we're just all milling around in the green room, I'll call it, while we're waiting to get going, let me know where you're watching from. Let me know, are you up yet? Have you been to your plot yet? What's going on? How are you getting on? So I'm on the farm this morning. It's soaking wet. You won't be surprised to hear. But we've got a couple of dry days on the trot now, so we're going to be able to get some stuff. There's loads of people waving on Instagram and saying good morning, hello everyone that's joining, hello everyone that's waving, or it's encouraging me to wave back. Garden Services Southend on Sea. I'm down the road in Southend. Hello, welcome. Morning, just up the road in Firefield. Hello, Sam's Allotment Live says, hi Alex, I'm making cake. Cool, bring me some. Angie's Edible Garden says, snow stops play. Yes, the chat could get confusing if I run two simultaneously, but that's life. Got people on YouTube that want to watch, people on Instagram that want to watch, and I haven't got time to do an hour first on one platform and then an hour on another. So yeah, I mean, if it's, yeah, maybe. Hi from Winchester. Hello from Barcelona. Barcelona, good work. International crowd this morning. So, what am I doing on the allotment? I keep saying allotment. I haven't got a lot. Well, I have got an allotment, but this is not what we're talking about. On the farm this morning. So, those of you who have seen my YouTube video, YouTube videos go out this week, know that I'd started to look after some garlic and started to feed and weed and look after some garlic. We've got my little Yorkshire Gardens drinking tea from bed. Hello from North Yorkshire. Get up. It's 9:04. Half the day's gone. Our allotment, something or other, says, off to the plot shortly to build a new duck cage. Nice. Then back to the farm to feed sheep, cows, horses. It's sunny here, so let's hope it stays that way. Good work. When do you start selling your organic boxes? The summer. First week in June. Well, there might be some coming out early, but the official season starts first week in June. So yeah, if you've got any questions at all, this is going to be a really, really tough watch if it's just me waffling on and reading what's on the screen. So if you've got any questions at all, like someone just chucked into the chat, whether it's about the veg box service, whether it's about the farm, whether it's about growing your own, whether it's about me, you just chuck them out and I will try and answer them for you. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm going to finish off attending to my garlic. I've got one bed left. And what I was doing was I was weeding them and just giving them that cultivating in between the rows just to make sure that there's no baby weeds sneaking up. You obviously don't get a lot of weed pressure this time of year, but it's good to keep on top of it. And I was adding a natural grower, organic and veganic, or incidentally, fertilizer or soil conditioner to it. So I haven't said how long have you been growing food, etc. I'll come back to that one. So yes, that's what I'm doing today. I've got one bed left, and for those that are new to my story, my beds are 15 meters long by 75 centimeters wide. So yeah, it's quite a substantial bed for me to do. Right, there's questions flying in, so I'll try and keep up. We've got how long have you been growing for? So out and out growing like vegetables, not that long, maybe 5 years. But I've always done a little bit of growing as I've gone up. Green side up. I know you've just started a farm in your first year, outlay in cash. How many years to recoup that outlay? Okay, so I'll come back to that one as well. Sorry, I have to read the YouTube ones as I go because they disappear. Actually, I've just worked out how to keep it on. Right, so yes, one question at a time. Let's get under control. We'll get these under control. So the first question was, how long have I been growing for? 5 years. I've had some growing space specifically designated to growing vegetables. But my mum's a florist, my granddad grew vegetables, so I've been in and around it for a long time. The next question that came in was, what are you sowing this month? So I'll come back to that one because that's quite a long-winded one. Hello, Green Side Up. Hello, Rob from the Leicester Allotment channel. Go and check out his channel. I know he's new to YouTube, or relatively new. I know you've just started the farm. So the question was from Green Side Up, I know you have just started the farm. What was your first year's outlay in cash, and how how many years until you recoup that? So I don't know my first year's outlay because I've only been on this particular farm, which will serve, or which will be big enough going forward to expand and grow and things like that. So I've only just moved here, and I moved here in October, so I'm midway through August. Sorry, I'm only just midway through my first season, so I can't tell you a figure for expendable cash. What I can tell you, to get the amount of compost and horse manure and cow manure and everything like that that you need to improve soil on this scale, it's not a cheap hobby. Like allotmenteering can be a cheap hobby, but it's taken some investment to get it into the place where I'll be ready to grow for this coming season, or this season that we've just started, and have vegetables ready for my customers. It's a little bit complicated because I'm in a transition period. So I had a site previously, which is where I run the trial site from, trial year of service from. But that isn't big enough and isn't sustainable enough to be there. So I'm in this transition where even this first season on my new farm, I will be growing some bits at the old site, mainly just in the polytunnels and greenhouses that I've got there, before I invest in new ones, more industrial ones and more appropriate ones for this new site ready for the following season. So it's a little bit complicated outlay, but in my 3-year plan, the question is year 3 is where I will become profitable, and what I call properly profitable. So year 1, I plan to have a lot of, take in a lot of money, but everything will be reinvested back into the farm, obviously, and then it will cover the outlay that I'd made in year 1. Year 2, very, very similar, to get it into the place where in year 3 it will have all the infrastructure, all the growing space, the layout, the destination, and everything that I feel it needs to be a profitable farm. So there's more to it than just offering a veg box service, as I've talked to in a few of my videos. It's a community supported agriculture service. So I want it to be a destination for volunteer work. I'm in conversations with adults with learning disabilities and stuff, as using it as possibly a place for them to get real hands-on work experience, with the view to them having paid work in the future, etc., etc. So there's all sorts in the pipeline. I want to do talks. I want to do coffee mornings. I want it to be a destination. So that is the full extent to the answer of that. If you've got any follow-up questions, give me a shout. So I'm catching up now on Instagram. How do you fertilize your beds? Every turnover or looking for signs. So on this new farm, I'll be following what the French Canadian JM Fortier does, what Honey Tree Farm do, and that's every time I flip the bed, I'll add the amendments the um, to the bed and refertilize it. So what that means effectively is that yeah, I'll come back to that question, green side up. Um, so yes, I will. What was I saying? Yeah. So every time I take a crop out of the bed and put a new crop in that bed, I will add fertilizer, whether that's soil amendments, all organic soil amendments, and a thin layer, or depending on what it needs visually, a layer of compost, and that's how I keep the bed's fertilizer. Lisa Marie's Kitchen Garden is saying good morning on Instagram. I will be on her live um, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Her live starts. I'll be on at about 5 past. So I'm looking forward to that, talking to her audience about what it is that I'm trying to do here, answering Lisa's questions. I'm sure she's going to grill me about what I'm doing, what I plan to achieve, and I'm sure it'll be a lot more structured than this because I'm crazy, like I'm a lunatic. Right, I'm up to date on Instagram, so if you're watching, and there's plenty of you watching, which is great, chuck in any questions you've got. For those who've just joined me, I'm doing a simultaneous live between YouTube and Instagram on this Saturday morning. It's just a basic Q&A. You can ask me about the farm, you can ask me about me, you can ask me about growing, you can ask me about growing your own tips, whatever. Just throw the questions out there and I'll try and catch up. Right, we had a question in over on YouTube that says, oh yes, it must be a health and safety for you to have volunteers on the farm. So I'm working hard on that. So I have had volunteers on the farm, but they've been so far, but they've been friends of mine and bits like that. So not official volunteer mornings. So I've avoided it so far and only one or two at a time. But yes, it is a bit of a logistical nightmare. I'm in the middle of sorting it out now, ready for spring and summer, and to be fair, as long as you do a risk assessment, which is a very basic risk assessment for something like this, because it's outside and we won't be using any tractors, power tools, anything like that. It'll just be hand tools. Because it's outside and I complete a risk assessment, which I just had to have like one bit of paper that I refresh every time I have volunteers on site, and get the guys to just sign in and sign out, to say that they're here and they're under their that I don't personally take any responsibilities for that kind of thing on site, then you were there or thereabouts. Plus, for something like this and a business like this, I've got insurance, two different kinds of insurance that cover employees. Not that I've got any, but it covers me and would cover employees when I take people on in the future. And the cover volunteering, so public liability insurance being part of it, and that's covered. Both ones are covered up to 5 and 10 million. So you need to put stuff in place if you're going to do that kind of thing, if you want to have yourself covered. But yeah, that's it. Something Bandit 45. What did you do full time before the farm? How big a shift was it to do this full time? So long story short, my career has been in retail for about 14 years in retail, working for Tesco, which if you're watching in the UK, you'll know who Tesco is. If you're watching somewhere else, you might not. It's a huge retail here in the UK, the biggest in the country. And towards the end of the transition came, so I worked in shops for a few years at the beginning, worked my way in. I did some work with fruit and veg sourcing for Tesco, was helping design and implement a waste redistribution system into all of our shops across the country. Our shops, so it's not our anymore. I don't work for them anymore, but you find it hard to get out of that habit. For all of the shops, that meant that food waste, rather than it going in the bin and going into landfill, it went into yeah, it went into charities, it went to animal feed, it got given away for free, all that kind of thing, basically to stop it going into landfill as much as recycling as can. So yes, I did that, and then I worked for Research UK for a year, paid, not volunteered. I had a paid job for Cancer Research UK. Hi, Dan's Kitchen saying hello. Good morning. Over on YouTube. And then, yes, I did that for a year. Then I had a dabble in grounds maintenance, starting up my own grounds maintenance company, which sort of ticked along, but it ended up being more corporate stuff as opposed to gardens, corporate areas. That's where the money is, and that continues. And then I am now here. I trialed it whilst I had some time as that, gardening business just ticked over. And I wouldn't say I'm full time on the farm now, yet, but come March, I would start saying I'm officially full time, and that's where, the income will come from. But I'm lucky that I'm in a place where, I've got some investment and some money to invest in, etc., etc. So yeah, that's my story. That's what I did before. I think that pretty much covers that off. Let me know if you've got any more questions. If not, I'll go right back to the one. Hello, Rusty Smith, saying hello. Uncle Scott's allotment. How do you persuade your wife that this is a good idea? I'll come back to that one. I had a question about what seeds I'm sowing at the moment, which we will go through now. That was a little while back, but it's a bit of a longer question. Someone's saying, wow, that's a hell of a lot of good you've done with that Tesco project. Great stuff. Thanks for answering. No problem at all. Yeah, I was especially that last project. That last project I was really proud of. But yeah, so it was tough. It wasn't perfect when I left. It still needed some work. I don't know what it's like now. I'd had enough of that life anyway by the end of that project, or as my part of that project was winding down. And I was already, as you could tell by the move to Cancer Research UK, I was already looking for something a little bit different, a little bit more rewarding. A part of that project was working directly with charities, albeit not Cancer Research UK, but a lot of the food is redistributed to soup kitchens and charity food distributors. So that is where the link to charity work came from. And then, so that's why this community support, it's not just a farm, it's not just a vegetable farm, it's a community supported agriculture scheme, because I want it to have a direct link. So good morning, Vixter. Good morning. I've been following you since your little plot. Love your passion for Grow Your Own, and excited for your new chapter. Thank you so much. Every so often someone pops up and says, oh, I've been following you since the days of your, little allotment. And it is crazy. Like, it is crazy how quick it's developed, quick it's expanded, and I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, as Uncle Scott's allotment said, to have a supporting family around me that are willing to let me try these crazy things, and not only let me try them, but really support me when it comes to these kind of projects. So my wife hates growing vegetables, hates the mud, not interested in doing it that way, but in other ways she supports me, behind the scenes with all the boring stuff. So it's really good to have that support family, and my parents have played a bit of a part in it as well, obviously. With morning Jesse, plot 37 on YouTube jumps into the chat with a big morning Alex, good morning. So my parents are obviously very supportive. My mum having a horticultural background, my dad having a ridiculously long and extensive corporate background and business background. Between that sort of mini network of people that I've got around me, which I'll now throw my landlord into, which with that network of people around me, I've got a real team that can help me get through the stuff behind the scenes. But the only support I get on the gig every so often. So yes, which brings me back onto the question that I've tried to answer 3 times already and got distracted, which was, what am I sowing at the moment? So let me run you through. At the moment, under lights in my house, I've got chilies, peppers, and aubergines. Angie's Edible Garden. It's great following your journey, but show us your tongue. That's my. I've got to try and come away from that. So many people dislike the tongue sticking out. Green Side Up says, "Oh, I missed that. Oh no, I've got it back. I like your can-do attitude. Think of an idea, give it a go. My kind of mantra. Also, oh, good work. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I worked in corporate for a long time. Something that I fell into, sort of in between college and uni, and I never went to uni in the end. I got fast tracked for a management program in Tesco's, and I fell into it. And or I loved my time at Tesco's. I absolutely loved it, and they're a great employee to work for. But it wasn't a passion, so it's taken me until my early 30s to mid 30s to. Oh, morning, sister. My sister's watching. It's taken me until that point to jump into something that I'm really passionate about, and then try and make that, into a career and pay for it. So yes, Cito, and I will answer this. Chilies, peppers and aubergines I've got as baby plants that were sown on the 1st of January under lights in my house. So they need to stay warm consistently over 10 degrees, so they can't even be in a cold room in your house. They need to, be in a main room in your house that's consistently warm. Just germinated under lights and on heat mats in the garage unit I've got is onions and spring onions. As soon as they've got about an inch or two's worth of growth on them, they will go outside under protection because they're fairly hardy. What I put on the heat mat, so then in stacks, like literally trays stacked on top of each other, indoors in a house that's warm, not on a heat mat or under lights, but just whilst they're germinated in the dark, but in the warm, I've got spring onions, more spring onions, leeks, cabbages. Is that it? What have I just moved? Oh, and lettuce and mustard lettuce. And so last night, because the germination was like up to 100%, I moved from the dark and the warmth into the lights in the unit on a heat mat. I moved my lettuces and mustard lettuce. But again, they'll spend about a week or two strengthening up on those heat mats and under the lights until they're established. And those lights and that heat mat are only on for 10 hours a day at the same time overnight, and then it's dark. So it fluctuates between 6 or 7 degrees right up to 17 to 20 degrees under those heat mats, depending on what the outside temperature is in that unheated unit. So they spend a couple of weeks getting used to that fluctuating weather, that cold. They're strengthening up depending on what the product is, and then they go, because all these plants that I'm talking about are relatively hardy once you've got them going. Once they're going, they go outside under protection, either in an unheated greenhouse, unheated polytunnel, or unheated cold frame type thing. So that is what I've got growing. What I'm sowing for the rest of this month is nothing but, not to spoil the video, I've got a video that I started filming that will come out in the week just before, so later this week coming, about what I'll be sowing in February. It'll be a lot of the same stuff, really. There won't be anything, but right at the end of February, and I mean like the last week in February, I'll start sowing my tomato plants again. They will be germinated in the warmth of my house, like the chilies and the aubergines, and peppers, and then they will go on heat mats under lights in my house. So yes. Sorry, Alex, I got to run. Good luck with the farm, mate. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you for watching Green Side Up, and don't ever apologise. You've been on here listening to me waffle for 23 minutes, which is incredible. I can't listen to myself for 23 minutes. I just get bored. So thank you for watching. Did you have to wait a long time to get your allotment? I've got a bit of a, annoying for a lot of other people attitude when it comes to this stuff. Greenside said, "Oh hell, let's make it 24 minutes. Thank you." So I decided one day on a whim that I needed more space. I was getting the allotment, and I overlooked these allotments at my house, and I should have done it a lot earlier. And I wish I had have, but that's life. And so I rang the council, and they said, "Oh, there's a waiting list of like 18 people for this allotment site." It's like 150 allotments across on my site. So because I live opposite them, I wandered across to the allotment site and spoke to two people that I now consider my friends, which are Karen and Ray, who run the allotment site from the committee point of view. So they run the committee. They're brilliant growers. Ray's got a Instagram channel, so dig him out. Oh, I've just clicked something, sorry. And said, look, are they all taken? What's the story? And they said, oh, what have I done? That's it. They said, no, the council are just really slow at dealing with it and stuff like that. There must be like 30 or 40 unplots, some that have never even, been sorted. So given that information, I was like a ball to a red rag, emailing people at the council, and I didn't really get my way. And it was frustrating, so I just emailed, this is bad. Like, when I look back, I think this is bad. But so then I emailed the boss of the person that was in charge and said, look, I just want an allotment. Why is this so hard? You've got, it's not like, these weren't plots that just looked abandoned. Like, these were plots that hadn't been grown on for years and years and years and years. And so that conversation, went on for about a week, and her boss, the person's boss at the council, sorted it out for me. So I wasn't on the list for very long, but I could have been on the list for a long, long time, and I could have ended up doing something completely different, and that's what frustrates me about it. Like, if I look at where I am now and what I'm doing now, the allotment had an absolute fundamental part in making me realise that I could do this as more than a hobby, and really honed my skills. And I could, like, some people are on the waiting list for 5 years, so I could still be on a waiting list. And that's what frustrates me about council allotments. I know they do a great job. It was nothing personal to the woman that I was dealing with. She just didn't get back to me effectively, and there's no communication. And having been in business a long time, I know that communication is everything. And so it's frustrating, but I didn't let it drop. So yeah, that's how long I was on the thing. Any more questions? We're getting dry with the questions, which means I just ramble on about my life and how annoying I am to the council. But I do it all with a smile on. I did it all with a smile on my face, and yeah. So Chris Knight on YouTube says, I'm in the same situation, waiting for a plot. I'm the fourth on the list, been waiting since March last year. Look, what I will, yeah, I absolutely have been in that situation, and I get your frustration. What I would say on that is that that's just my example of my council allotments and how I was given a lot of information from Karen and Ray, who are the people that run the committee side of it, saying this has been like this for years. It's a frustration of us. So I took it upon myself to sort of take over that fight off of their hands, that says, why is this so hard? It's not hard at a different allotment side, run by someone else half a mile, 5 miles up the road. Why is it so hard for your council? So that's just my experience with my councils. I know there's some councils out there and private run allotments that do everything absolutely brilliantly. Someone say something in the Instagram thing, because I might have messed it up and the chat isn't working. And yes, I have I can't remember where I was now, sorry. So yeah, that was just my experience. I took that on, and things have a lot better since. And with the emphasis of COVID and everything like that, I can absolutely say that things have got better, a lot better. And it's the same woman. It's still the same woman running it, and yeah, things have got a lot better. Sorry, I was just typing on the Instagram just to make sure it's going, because there's loads of people in there watching, and they're either just watching me and not saying anything, or the chat's not working. Oh, it started flicking back up again. So right, get me some more questions in, because otherwise I'll run out of things to talk about. Or give me a subject to talk about, and then I'll just waffle on about it. Oh, YouTube keeps changing focus. So yeah, that was my allotment story. Yes, it's working. It's just people just don't want to talk to me. They just want to sit there with a cup of tea in bed and just watch me waffle on, which is fine by me. It's cold here. It's cold here. It's cold here. It's cold here. Chris Knight says potatoes. How do you decide what to grow for your veg boxes? Okay, so that's cool. Some stuff to go on. It's cold here this morning, like really cold. That camera is really annoying me on YouTube, because it keeps putting me out of focus and then back in focus, which is going to be horrendous for the watch back, but that's life. My toes are freezing. So, what are your plans for this year? How do I decide to grow what for the veg boxes? I'll answer those two in they're similar-ish questions, and I'll jump back to potatoes. So, my plans for this year is obviously, if you are familiar with my story, you'll know that I have signed a lease on some land, and I'm doing a veg box service for people in and around Chelmsford in Essex, which is going really, really, really well. So my plans for this year are obviously to establish that and the new site. What I mean by establish that is I've got blocks of 10 beds, or well, 11 beds. It's 10 beds and a perennial bed, which is a block of what I call a block of beds. That is 250 meters squared. So the size of an average allotment, a UK average allotment. And what I need to build to have those ready, or I need to build ready for spring, is have, just let me start this again. What I need to have 6 of those blocks built, so effectively 6 allotments, fenced off, beds made, all that kind of thing, ready for spring, which is like in a month's time, to service my veg boxes. Behind the scenes, I'm obviously doing all the seedlings and seed work and baby plant stuff for that. So those are my immediate plans for this year. I will do a veg box service that is, I've got I've got the old site if I can't get all those done for whatever reason, but I'm confident I'll get those done over the few weeks that I've got left. I'm just waiting for the weather to improve a little bit. I've then got, so then my veg box service will run for 22 weeks between the first week in June and the end of October, with some either side of that. I've got 7 farmers markets planned, one a month. And then I plan to have a little bit of a break and do a winter veg box service, which was more winter veg leading up to Christmas. So that's my plans for this year. How do you decide what to grow for your veg boxes? Well, I sat down and I thought, what would I want in a veg box? And I made a list of 45 products, of which then they've all got like different variants. So potatoes is an example, which was another topic thing that I shouted out there. That I will, potatoes, I've got 3 different varieties that I'm doing. So I've got 45 products that I'll grow and then put in the veg boxes, and they'll be seasonal. So different times of my veg box season, will have different products in the boxes. How you buy a house with a garden that has no beds, greenhouse, what is the first thing you do? Build a bed, build a raised bed, get something in the ground. And so how do you get the most out of your space, i.e. getting more veg for the space you have? Great question, Angie's Edible Garden. Biointensive market gardening is the format that I'm using. So you have specific size beds, specific size tools, and grow in a specific way to, first of all, increase productivity, but then also to maximize your space. So most books will tell you, let's take a product, for example, let's say a tomato plant. No, tomato plant's a bad example. Let's say kale plants. Most books will say that they need to be, X amount of space apart. And, the rows need to be X amount of space. I've thrown that, well, not me personally, but the people that have designed this in like America and Canada and places like that have thrown that out the window and said, no, if you get the soil conditions right, so they're not competing with nutrients, you can plant plants much closer together than all the traditional books and X, Y, and Z. So biointensive market gardening is how I'm getting the most out of my space. And then what supplements that is intercropping. So you don't have necessarily a bed for spring onions and radishes, because you can squeeze them in here, there, and everywhere in those gaps that I was talking about. But that is all fundamental in growing. Biointensive growing is having extremely fertile and good quality soil. So I hope that answers the question. Now all the questions are coming in and I can't keep up. Are you growing fruit too? Year 1, no. Year 2s and 3s, yes. I have put 1,000 strawberry plants in just to see how that gets on. Hello, mister, show your chili plant. I'm not at home. All my chili plants are at home, so I can't. Sorry, I'm in the shed. So I said all that. And also, are you using the allotment to produce crops for your veg boxes? Absolutely not. I never have. It's against the rules. So no, I'm not using the allotment at all. I'm keeping the allotment because eventually I'll get my chickens back on there, and that is across the road, and I'll grow for just us personally on there, little bits. I'm redesigning it over this sort of winter periods and making it really easy to maintain, really easy to. Traditional or no dig on the farm? Oh, Laura Starr. Oh, you've asked me the question that I hate the most. Traditional or no dig on the farm? Do I get into this morning? Right? Traditional or not? Hello to everyone that's saying traditional or no dig. Then, to me, they're not mutually exclusive. There seems to be this like tribal sort of I don't know, following of people that half of them support no dig, half of them support traditional, and they bloody hate each other. And and one of them says you're lazy, and the other one says you're stupid, and and I just feel like it's created across social media, especially this whole sort of tribalism. What I would say is there's instances where you would need to do both. Like you will need to do both, and there's nothing wrong with being completely traditional or completely no dig. You just need to do what's right for your land and your thing. So for me, this is the process I'm going through to build the bed. So that's all I'll say on no dig and no dig, no dig or traditional. But what I will tell you is the process of what I do to build my beds and how I deal with them throughout the year, and then you can decide for yourselves whether I'm dig or no dig. So to prep the bed swimming, so I've inherited ploughed land. So it's recently been ploughed. I even asked him to plough it again for me to take the weed pressure off. So from a no dig format, that would be like no, but that's because it's absolutely brand new land that I am building beds on. That piece of land, as soon as there's a bed built on it, it'll never be ploughed again. And I'm using what I'd call regenerative agriculture principles from there forth going forward. So it's ploughed land. I mark out my beds, and you're right, Laura. It's just, someone always asks it. I'm only messing around. It's a great question, and I'll continue to answer it. So from there on forth, I shall first of all broad fork those beds to aerate the soil. As I'm building them, I mark them out. I broad fork those beds to aerate the soil. So broad fork is effectively a garden fork on steroids, a big version of it that you stick in the ground, you stand on, you pull it back, it aerates the soil, breaks, creates better drainage. And the reason I'm doing that is not because I'm a traditional digger or I don't agree with no dig. It's because my soil is clay. Like, you get a couple of inches down and it's rock hard clay. And that's what I mean. It would be easy for me to chuck shed loads of compost and manure on these beds without doing anything else to it, a la no dig. But the drainage would be horrific, and it would take years and years and years for my drain for that organic matter to have an effect on the soil. So we've marked them out. We've broad forked it. We're then adding manure or fertilizer or soil conditioner, a couple of inches of that, and then a few inches of compost. And then those beds, and then we'll wood chip in the past because that will aid the breakdown of the. I'll come back to that veggie plot. You've got a good point. Yes, I'll. What was that? Oh yeah, I would chip the path because again I've got clay soil and I just need large amounts of organic matter in the ground and on the ground. And then that's a bed made. And then the only thing I will do, dependent on where we are in the season and and where we are and what the soil looks like, is when, again, like I said, when I said earlier in the live for anyone that's watching, when I change a bed, so I'll take the kale out and then I put something else back in the bed behind it, whether it's another crop or a cover crop or whatever, I will broad fork again because especially in the first instance, because the soil will still be clay. I'll add soil amendments, so some nutrients, whether that's natural grow organic fertilizer or individual stuff like blood, fish and bone, chicken pellets, bit of manure, that kind of thing. I'll decide as and when, and depending on the bed and where it is in the big field that I'm in. And then I'll add a little top up layer of compost and replant into it. So that is the process that I'll use. There are elements of no digging that, there are elements of digging that, and that's exactly what I mean. Veggie Plot says, I don't think you have to justify what you have decided to do. It's personal to everyone, and that is okay. You're absolutely right. But I'm on a live and someone's asked me a question, so I will justify it. It's not justifying necessarily. Like I like that people like my opinion, but it's not the be all and end of all. I'll know I am confident that what I'm trying to achieve here will work, and the way I'm doing it will work. I've seen other people do that. I've seen other people have success in the way I'm doing it. So, but it is nice to share that with the people that are on my live and that are watching. So I hope you found that little bit interesting. My most hated question in gardening, but I'm glad you asked it because it gave me something to talk about for 10 minutes. Is there any more questions? I don't want to flog something that isn't doesn't feel natural or um, doesn't feel right. If you've got any more questions, chuck them in. What jobs have I got for the weekend? So yes, I finished off. I got one garlic bed, as I said in my vlog I did this week. I have got one garlic bed left to weed, feed, and sort of tuck in. I can't decide whether to put straw or hay mulch on the top of them just to help protect. And now they've had a cold snap, I can't decide whether I'm doing that just yet. So I've got a couple of questions on YouTube that I've missed. Sorry. Is there a lot of money a month to rent a market garden from a farm? How did you find it? I'll answer that in a second. Jay at plot number 12 says, totally agree with you, man. I don't see why people have to choose sides if elements of both can work together. Absolutely. And we've got this sort of like tribal, like I said, I call it tribal. I have a laugh about it. Just relax. There's no this is something I've said from the very beginning. There's no right or wrong ways to grow vegetables. Like, vegetables will grow themselves. If you stick a seed in the ground, they'll find a way to survive. That's life. That's plant life. That's the basic science behind it. That's why they reproduce seeds, and that's why they scatter them themselves, and that's why we've got plants that live without us. So it's life will find a way, for a very philosophical way to look at it. But yeah, so there's no right or wrong way to garden. Just do what you feel's right, and make sure you learn. Make sure you're willing to learn, and take advice, not that's thrown at you, but that experience and advice from experienced growers. If it's given to you in the right way, it is great, and that's how I've learned. Like I said, I mentioned Ray and Karen and my parents and people that have heavily influenced my gardening style. So yeah. That's all. I'll finish that. I won't go on any more about that. I had a couple of other questions. One of them was, where are you in Essex? I'm Chelmsford. He's in Colchester, which is about 20 minutes up the road, so that's cool. Totally agree with her. How is it a lot of money to rent? I can't answer that question because I've got an incredibly good landlord that has done me an incredible deal for a first sort of amount of time that I'm on the farm, and we're in negotiations for what a long-term lease looks like. Now we're confident that we like each other and we can work each other, and basically that I wasn't going to mess him about, which was never going to be the case. But like with all these new relationships, you have to prove yourself. So that proving period is over, of which I've hardly paid a penny, which I'm completely grateful for. But now we're in negotiations to go forward, so I can't answer that, but I might be able to answer it in a couple of months' time. And how did I find the land? The best way of doing it is cold calling. Sorry, I'm just waving at my landlord. It's driving past me. That was weird, wasn't it? The best way I found to do it, but again, I was really lucky. The first person I reached out to said, yes, we've got something for you, was to cold call farmers. So every farm in and around the UK has got a spare half an acre, 1 acre, 2 acre that they don't use, that's used for nothing. And if they're a farmer that's willing to have someone else farm their land, they'll have they'll be happy to rent it to you. The tough part is finding one that does want other people rent on their land. But what I went to my landlord was a clear business plan, a clear indication of what I wanted to do with his land and how I was going to do it, and that instilled him with the confidence to say yes. And then I showed him. Should I feed garlic now? I always feed my garlic between now and sort of end of February, so that's when I give it a little boost. Garlic, you don't have to feed it. It's such a good crop, an easy crop. You don't have to do it. Rusty Smith, 1975, says, how many veg boxes do you estimate you will be able to produce throughout a season off your land? So, I don't know if you were in the chat earlier, but I said I'm aiming for 6 blocks. Sorry, I'm aiming for 6 blocks. Sorry, I'm going to come back to that 1 second while I just read this. The fisherman. If I think if you watch a lot of YouTube and you would think everyone is no dig. On my site, for instance, it's 95% traditional. Let me get the finger out. 96% traditional. So yeah, that's a good. So I aim to build 6 blocks, which 6 blocks, which will effectively mean I'm actually physically growing on a third of an acre. I'll successfully produce, and this is going to sound a lot for that amount, but like I said, biointensive cropping. I will successfully do 100 veg boxes for 22 consecutive weeks in the height of the season from that land, from a third of an acre, or maybe not even as much as third of an acre. I've got, the plan is to have 1.33 acres in total. Yeah, the wife is quiet today. I don't know what she's up to. Usually heckling me on here for those that are new to it. I plan to have just under 1.5 acres in total, of which 70% of that would be growing space, or 75-80% of that would be physical growing. That alludes to 20 of those blocks that I've decided. I think so. It's the effectively 20 allotments. A standard full allotment is 250 square meters, so that is roughly. So if you can imagine 20 full, not half full allotments, that's the total amount of growing space that I require to complete my 3-year plan, of which some of that is under huge 100-foot polytunnels. Anyway, so yes, that's what I plan to do this season. I've capped it at 100 boxes. For example, in my old site, I had what I would call 250 square meters of growing space at my old site that I run the trial from last year, and I did 20 boxes a week successfully from that 1 block size, comfortably, easily. Had loads of veg to pick from, loads of things, using this technique as my trial. So, if I'm obviously trying to do 5 times that amount of blocks this season, so that means I need 5 blocks. I'm going for 6 because I want a little bit of leeway. If you want to put a monetary value to it, and I've never done this on YouTube before, I've never put a monetary value to it before because I think it sounds ridiculous and people will go, this guy is living in cloud cuckoo land. But if you take the Organic Soil Association average price for a product, so you're not talking carrots at 50p from Tesco's, you're talking about a bunch of topped carrots from a farmer's market grown organically that are probably going to cost you upwards of £2 as an average across the country. Down here and in London, that'll cost you £3. If you take that price point, which is available online, and if I upload this video, I'll stick the link to it. Like, if you take the average Soil Association price for organic veg across the UK at a farmer's market in 250 square meters, 250 square meters of space, you can grow £10,000 worth of vegetables at end retail prices. So therefore, across 6 of them, you can grow £60,000 worth of crops. And that is taking into consideration crop failure as an average amount of crop failure. If you wanted to have if you take the lowest price point that they offer, so the lowest price point for all of those individual veggies, you can grow £8,000 worth of organic vegetables at the lowest price point in a 250 square meter block, growing in the way that I'm growing. Biointensive. Morning, Mother Cooker Garden. Love your channel. I know we chat a little bit, but for everyone else here, love your channel. You're a massive help to me. So good morning. Thanks for joining. So yes, in a 250 square meter block, I, based on my price points, plan to grow £10,000 worth of crops. And that's the first time I've ever advertised live or in any way, shape or form what I expect to get out of And just to give you an indication of that, I can fit in one single bed, in which obviously when I'm full, I have 60 beds. In one single bed, I can fit 500 garlic cloves in one single bed growing like this, and I'll have 60 beds. At the price point that they give you, it's £1 a garlic bulb, because you can sell an organic garlic bulb at a farmer's market in Essex for £1. So therefore you've got, to make it really simple, even if you have it at 90p or 80p or whatever, to make it really simple, let's keep it as a round pound. That is £500 worth of garlic in one bed. Take away 50 quid for crop failure or garlic that isn't quite right. You know, that's a large percentage. With garlic, I'd expect that to be better than that. So that's £450 from one bed. And that'll be all done and dusted and out the ground before the summer season's even started. So then I can reuse that bed for something quick crop like lettuce or salad that will give me kilos and kilos and kilos of pick and come again lettuce, because again 500 at the same spacing as the garlic, 500 lettuce plants in one, £400 to £500 worth of usable veg after failures and stuff like that. So you can already see from one bed in one block, using those figures, you can grow £10,000 worth of veg from 250 square meters. So yeah, that's it. That's the way it is. That's the way I believe you can do it. There's people doing it in America already. This isn't my my format. This isn't my way of doing things. This has been done. It's proven. It's out there, and I can see it works. Sorry if I've missed it, but what is your bed size? 15 meters long by 75 centimeters wide, with a 40 centimeter path in between each one. Veggie Potter says, thanks for being open about the costs and income. It's very interesting. Wish you the best with it. Thank you very much. Thanks for the cost ideas. Been thinking about the monetary side of it for a while, but had no idea where to start. One thing I would say from all that is that's pure like income. Sorry, I should have said that. That's with the garlic, for example, that's £450, and I've got four full garlic beds, so that's £2,000 worth of crops, for want of a better word. What I should say is that doesn't take into consideration the cost it cost me to get those garlic in the ground. So that is just like pure takings from that bed. It's £10,000 like gross, not net, is what I should say. And so that from that one bed, from that one single crop, I'll get 450 gross from that garlic. What it should say is to plant that, it's probably cost me 30 quid, because garlic cloves aren't cheap. Probably not 30 quid actually, probably close to 20, because I can buy it in bulk in wholesale. So 20 quid to plant that bed. And then there's obviously my labour costs. If you're going to cost it properly, you've got to put in labour costs. So yeah, Victor, I have forgot to answer the potato question. We got 5 minutes left, so I'll come back to that. Thanks for the reminder. So yeah, there's labour costs in that. It took me probably 45 minutes to plant a bed. I only have to build the bed once, but to amend it and things like that, so that's another 15-20 minutes. It's an hour's worth of labour cost. So, and then maintenance throughout the year with garlic's pretty easy. You only have to weed it 3 or 4 times a year. So let's put another couple of hours worth of labour costs. So let's call it 3 hours of labour costs in total. If you're going to pay yourself £10 an hour, not that I pay myself, obviously I own the business, but if you're going to pay yourself £10 an hour, to make it the math simple, that's another £30 worth of labour cost. Then you've got the cost of the soil amendments, the compost, the stuff like that. So it's bung another round figure of 50 quid in for that throughout the season, or throughout that crop's life that you might need to do. So you're looking at, we're up to £100-ish worth of expenditure for that one thing. So that £450 that we've made is already down to £350, because of the cost it took you to get that garlic in place. Obviously, the more and more soil amending you do over the years, the less you'll have to do, so those outlay costs will come down. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and the business side of it, I've got some experience with in other businesses. Like I said, if you were at the beginning of my live, you'll have seen all that. So yeah, I hope that helps. Let me start winding up this video. I'll answer potatoes. So I don't know what you want to know about potatoes, but I won't be even thinking about doing anything with them until the beginning of March, maybe the end of February, beginning of March. I'm growing 3 varieties. I've ordered 25 kilos of seed potatoes of each of these 3 varieties. I'm going for a first early, a second early, and a main crop. They are International Kidney, which is effectively Jersey Royals, but I don't live in Jersey, so I can't use that name. Charlotte, which is without a doubt my favourite grain potato, absolutely brilliant. And Piccolo is my main crop. They're the 3 I've chosen this year. I've grown International Kidney and Charlotte before. I've never grown Piccolo before, but I've done some real research on it, and that is what I've chosen to go for this season. Right, 55 minutes of me waffling, answering questions. We are winding down. It's the last 5 minutes. If you've got any quick fire questions that you want to ask me, I do like to stick around for the full hour. So if you've got any quick fire, are you planting straight into the ground? I'm assuming that's about the potatoes. The answer is yes, the potatoes were going into ground. If I do decide to start some in February, which is a little bit earlier than I would do personally, usually to force some, I've got about 40 potato buckets that I might start to try and do one sort of early crop of potatoes in buckets in soil. Yeah. As far as other things that I'm planting straight in the ground, all that I do is carrots and parsnips. However, in my business plan is a in market garden cedar called a Yang cedar that I need about 800 quid to lay out. It's going to cost me about 800 to get it. And that's in my business plan, in which case that will enable me to do a lot more direct sowing. Do you grow any tomatoes? Yes, absolutely. It's like the first thing I grew on my allotment back years and years ago. I'll come back to that one about manure in a sec. So yes, I grow tomatoes. I'm growing 8 different varieties this year. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but I've got some favourites in there like Tigerella and Gardener's Delight, stuff like that. So yes, I absolutely grow tomatoes. The question was, do I put manure on my beds and do you source it free? Yes, absolutely. I've got 3 different kinds of manure that I've found a free source of. The only thing I do is I like to cover the cost of, because I get it by the tons and tons of it. I like to cover the cost of the guys bringing their tractors out to drop it off. So I chuck them 20 quid here and there for diesel money. That's the agreement we came to, and I've got 3 different kinds of manure from 3 different sources, all in the village that my farm's located, so keeping it really local. And that is horse manure, completely free. They're dropping it off for free as well. Cow manure, it's just in a lot more quantity and a little bit further afield, so that's where I'm covering the cost of the sort of to get it here, because that's like a 10-ton sort of lorry that they're bringing out every time. And I've actually got a source. There's 2 alpaca farms in the village, which is so weird. That there's 2 alpaca farms in the same village, and if you knew where this village was, it'd be crazy. And that stuff's like black gold to a vegetable grower. So I will be collecting that in. Obviously, they don't produce as much manure as cows and horses, so I'll be collecting that in large bags full. So yes, they're the manure I use it. Right, 58 minutes. Let's wind it up. Thank you so much for. Oh, do you have a polytunnel on the farm? Sorry, I just saw that click through. No. End of this season, watch out. I've got huge plans when it comes to polytunnels. It'll be a polytunnel like you've never seen before, and 2 of them actually. So no, not at the moment. I'll be using the polytunnel at my old site, which wouldn't survive being taken down and moved because it's just old and been there a long time. And there's also a greenhouse there, and it's where my garage space is. So whilst I'm in this transition period, I'm going to do that, and there'll be polytunnels on site at the farm from the end of this season onwards. Right, let's wind it up. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me for 59 minutes and 20 seconds, and I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm on another live tomorrow if you want to know anything in more detail. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for keeping it entertaining. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon. Thank you to. I'm sorry, I'm just closing down Instagrams. Yeah, thank you to everyone on YouTube. Thanks for the questions. See you later.